In 1883, Van Gogh moved from Den Haag to this part of the Netherlands. It's called Drenthe. It was a very struggling period for him, but the only two things that comforted him while he stayed in Drenthe was the magnificent nature and the local people. Most of the people were peat workers, and they lived in huts like these.
Although Drenthe is located in the north of Holland, the farmers and the rich black soil again reminded Van Gogh of the warmth of his hometown.
So he arrived here first in Hoogveen in September 1883, and after 3 weeks he went on with a barge from Hoogveen to Feyenoord, New Amsterdam. He arrived here, and in the beginning he looked around, made his walks through the landscape, and thought that it would fit what he wanted. And at the beginning he wrote to Theo in a letter, this is exactly what I want, this is what I find beautiful, it is peace here. That's what he literally says in a letter to Theo. But that was the beginning.
However, unlike the bustling city of The Hague, which was home to a very prominent art scene, Drenthe was rather a remote and underdeveloped area. The locals rarely saw any outsiders, and even more rarely did they see an artist. In Drenthe, Van Gogh had a hard time finding models and felt rejected by the local community. There was no good news from his brother Theo's end either. He had not managed to sell any of Van Gogh's paintings, which meant Theo was still Van Gogh's sole financial support. We can feel the gloominess in a letter from Van Gogh's in this period, particularly in the following one, a description of his studio.
Lack of money, I mean, that's something that comes back in his whole life, that he lacks the financial means to paint. And what comes extra here in this period is that he doesn't meet the people that he needs. He's lonely here. He's not a very easy person to live with. That's what many people have noticed in their lives. And here he was seen as a kind of stranger. He wanted to be among the people, but he didn't succeed in that because the people saw that he was different, intellectually and socially.
Here he was seen as a kind of stranger. He wanted to be among the people, but he didn't succeed in that because people saw that he was different, intellectually and socially. Van Gogh was no stranger to giving up. He gave up his first job, a 7-year position at an art gallery. He gave up his teaching job at a boarding school. He gave up studying theology. He gave up his dream of becoming a preacher, and he just let go of a romantic relationship. Painting had become Van Gogh's only sustenance. Could he simply have been wrong once again? However, he gave up so many different lifestyles and goals, probably not because he didn't have the willpower or lacked discipline, but because his ideals were so elusive and difficult to find in reality. These decisions were his conscious choices. In December 1883, Van Gogh walked approximately 6 hours and then took a train ride back to his hometown North Brabant.
In Drenthe, Vincent was perceived by the locals as this lunatic. In his letters to Theo, he always expressed his extreme loneliness over here. Due to a quarrel over the letters, Theo did not send any money in the last few weeks while he was in Drenthe. So lack of financial support, he decided to go home to this new place where his father relocated. After drifting so many years, well, how will it be for Van Gogh coming back home? Will the family give him the same warm welcome?
In Nuenen, Van Gogh reached a peak in his painting. He produced a total of 552 paintings and drawings. All of these productions were, without exception, about poor farmers or weavers. Some experts believe that Van Gogh's lifelong fixation on poor people might have been influenced by the trend of Marxism at the time.
He was intrigued very much by destruction. Destruction of nature, destruction of churches, for instance the old tower in Nuenen, destruction by people as well, by the upper class. Don't forget that we live in the time of Karl Marx, the beginning of communism. Vincent is also seen in Russia, and that's why one of his masterpieces is in Moscow, two masterpieces as a matter of fact, as somebody who would call attention to the poverty and to the social misery of a lot of people.
However, Van Gogh did not want to get involved with social improvements or become a revolutionary. From his encounters with working people, he experienced the common pain and sufferings of life. In his opinion, this is not only caused by social injustice, but is rather part of life's true form.
Gogh wanted to depict the misery of life simply because he thought that's real life. Life is not a pleasure. Life is work. Life is hard work. So that's the way he looked upon it, I would tend to think. He certainly didn't think that you had to help the lower classes. That's not the point. That you have to be like the lower classes, like himself.
Van Gogh's painting skills rapidly developed in Nuenen. Although his brother Theo hardly sold any of his drawings, he never gave up his passion and dedication.
Van Gogh always says that he is a farmer's painter. He prefers to paint people that are hardworking, that are poor, because he thinks that's where the origin came from. But of course, these dark colors, dark themes, were not very popular at that time. So when Van Gogh asked other people, they always told him, make money and then your life will be straight. But he did not give up his persistence. He says that I should make my life straight and the money will come automatically.
But he did not give up. If he straightened out his life, the money would come automatically. Van Gogh painted The Potato Eaters in 1885. It was his first figure oil painting on big frame after 5 years of diligent practices. In March 1885, based on his brother Theo's suggestion, he submitted this picture for show at the Paris Salon exhibition. However, Theo did not send it because its dark colors and immature technique didn't meet his expectations. However, Van Gogh didn't lose heart. On the contrary, facing the critics, he was rather more conscious of his own painting style.
That is hidden in his pictures is indeed that you have to live your life in working. That your life has to be spent in harmony with nature, to earn your living with your hands, so to say. So in the case of the farmers, the famous potato eaters, for instance, that he painted, he simply wanted to show that those people were eating the potatoes that they put in the ground themselves and took out of the ground themselves. That's what the picture is about, and to a certain extent it's also the style of the picture, because he also worked, so to say, on that picture and tried to make it as effective as possible. So also through the style he wanted to show something about that way of life.
Though he was making rapid progress in his painting, Van Gogh wasn't able to reconcile with his family. His relationship with his parents deteriorated to the extent that he would stay with them without any exchange of words. It's hard to imagine how that boy, who had admired his father and had been so attached to his mother, later became a stranger at home. However, in the middle of the Cold War at home between Van Gogh and his father, something terrible happened to the family. Check in tomorrow for the next installment in our series on Vincent van Gogh.